We're uncovering the hidden army. Come along for the ride. Hello!
Welcome to Bad at Board Games.
Well, he's bad at board games.
I'm Brad Lake.
I'm Topher Ferguson.
And we're bad at board games, so you don't have to be. We're here in the middle of a hurricane-ish kind of thing. May lose some lights. Going to try to get through this kind of fast, but we talk a lot. So stick around for our six points. And what makes you think that you might want to buy this game or think, man, this is not for me. And Toph will tell you what his rating is at the end. I might not.
I will definitely give a rating to this game. So, yes. So today we are talking about Terracotta Army, which is a new game that you may have seen. You'll see it right over here. New game by Przemysław, Fornal, and Adam Kwapiński. It is published by Board and Dice.
They make cool games.
They do.
I'm a Board and Dice fan, so
Yeah, they make some really good games. In this game, if you have not seen it yet, it is primarily going to be a worker placement game, a bit of an area control game. That's kind of the biggest kind of parts, mechanics of the game. You got a little bit of resource management as well, and some specific player workers. The workers that you're using have different powers depending on if they're standard or if they're big. Yep. As I call them, El Jefe.
So the appearance, I think, it is really nice. Now, the models, this isn't a miniature war game fighting thing. I mean, I'll kind of show you in the top-down view here as well. They're okay. Like, they're not, like, stellar. They're not Simon. They're not Awakened Realms. But for this game, they're perfect. They're absolutely perfect. I love this little... And it's a gimmick, I know. But the way that you pull the workers or the statues out as though you're building them, you're kind of revealing them, or you're pulling them out of the ground. Either way, I like it. I love this gimmick. The rondelle, I think, is magnificent. Toph will get into that with the mechanics, but I like it. I really do. I think it fits the theme. I think they did a real nice job of it. You know, it's muted colors, you know, and I give a hard time about brown, but, you know, this doesn't feel Euro brown to me.
Yeah, no.
Even though it has these muted colors, and it's probably because you have some miniatures and you do have things that pop out. So I really like it. I think it's a great box cover. I think it's a real nice board and fits with the theme extremely well.
It really does. Yeah. I think that's helps with the brown is the fact that the theme's so historical.
Yep.
So with Terracotta Army, your main function's going to be starting with the worker placement. And what I think is good about this is that it's not the exact same actions every single time that you're playing it. That's what's going to make this unique. You've got this dial here, this rondelle that you are turning, and you're turning the dials in different ways depending on the time of the game, whether you are paying to turn it or you're starting a new round. You're going to set them that way. And the order that you have is what you're going to be able to do. So you're not just choosing one action. You're not always choosing the same action. You are choosing a series of actions that's going to be different every single time. Not that you play the game, but that you take a turn, which I really like about this. So worker placement's the main aspect. As you go through that, you're going to get resources. You're going to be able to use those resources. You might have to manipulate them like the clay. Thematically, it works. The clay dries out over time, so you got to keep it wet or you got to wet it. And so little things like that play with the resource management side. And then the beautiful part that I think all of us love is the area control game that you have over here. As you build more and more of your statues, the army, you're going to put them into this area at the top. And this area is going to give you different things based on alternate scorings that you're going to have that's going to change every single time you play this game. So as you can see, there's a lot of newness as you go. There's a lot of replayability as you go in the game.
And each statue gives you a secondary benefit, not just victory points.
Yes.
But then you have to unlock them somewhere else.
Yes. Yeah. It's always do I have enough resources? I yell in this game, I don't have enough money. I think that's what I've been yelling as we've been playing it. But yeah, each of the statues, you've got 4 different soldiers within the army, or 4 different ranks, and each of them do something different. And as Brad said, they all have this secondary action that about half the time I could take advantage of, and a little over half the time I could not, I think, because I didn't have the resources. So those are the main actions. There's a couple other little things here, but for the most part, it is a point salady game. You're going to be in the 200s probably with your points. Yep. But the vast majority of the action is going to be taking place between these main areas and some of the area control that you have with different actions.
Yeah, and so as we kind of have played this a few times now, the thing that drew me to this, I watched it on Rahdo, and was the rondelle, right? So I'm a sucker right now for rondelle, and a la Barrage, that one's really, really tight in your little rondelle that you have in your board, but being able to adjust your resources based on this rondelle, and then you don't quite like it, you can move one of the rings for 2 coins, which is nice because you don't get so pinned in. And then you can upgrade your small meeple to a large meeple, an artisan, and then that allows you to then go where there's a small meeple. So then that's unlocking and not restricting you too much either. So there's ways to free yourself up from this typical worker placement. Oh, I just can never go there because he's always going first or something, right? And then being able to build the statues. And it's interesting, we didn't realize it the first time we played, but at the end, they give you bonuses based on the same statues being in groups. And you get multipliers for putting them in groups with your other opponents. So if you're just by yourself and you have 2 to 5 guys or whatever, you're going to get 1 point for each guy you have. But if there's an opponent that puts the same statue with your group, now your guys are worth 2 points. Yeah. If you have 3 people that are in the same group, now each person's is worth 3. So at the end of not the last game me and Toph played, but the 4-player game I had, we were like trying to maximize our groups and get in other groups and not get in groups, so that like I had 4 points per statue, and I had 4 guys in a group that gave me 16 bonus points at the end. So it's real interesting how they've taken this like, oh, it doesn't matter where you place these just to get the victory points or the win condition each round, but now it matters at the end, and those end points can be huge.
Yeah, they really can. And it's not only that with the statues, but now you also have these special statues here, which there's only 1 left. Obviously, from playing it, we use them quite a bit. But there's 4 different statues you can build, and they each do something different, and they all affect scoring in some way, shape, or form. They either make it easier for you to score points, which would be the horses, or they break ties, like this kneeling archer that Brad's showing. It could be the musician that's giving you points based on the row and column you're in. Each of them does something special, and that adds to it as well. And that's a little bit of this fighting area control that we have. I think it's such a well-made game in the thought of so many things working together all at one time.
Yeah, and it's one of those like, oh, it's that. Like, it's tight. It really does feel tight. And you've got this Gaia project kind of thing going. Every round you have an end of round objective, and it's very Euro, right? And then the end game scoring really can shoot you to the moon. Like, Toph got, 1 victory point for every pair of clay you have? For every 2 clay, you get 1. For every 2 coins, you get a victory point. For every 2 clay, you get a victory point.
Yeah.
And look at the stack he's got over here. Yeah. Not this.
But all of this.
Yeah. I think he got 20 points just in clay, and it rocketed him. He beat me by...
It was like 20 points.
20 or 30 points. And I was doing very well, and I had locked in the 24 points at the end of the game already with the objectives, but then he was able to take it away with collecting clay, dry or wet. So
and kind of me playing endgame also at the very end thinking, okay, who do I need to get into groups? Like you were saying, sometimes you want to fight to get into them because your pieces are valued higher if you have more people in those groups. So yeah, Brad played very well, especially the last time that we played. I didn't think I was going to win. You were ahead a good bit of the game. And then there at the end, I just completely shot around the board and I was able to pull it out. So
yeah, it was pretty cool. So what are your positives?
Well, I think we've been talking about some of it.
Yeah.
Probably the biggest thing that I like is that it is a lot of things going on. And I love that in games. I like games that are heavily complex, that, hey, you have to think all over the board. But this does it in a way that it's not overly difficult. And that is, for a worker placement, a Euro, a thinkier game, to be able to come in at a little bit lower of a complexity. It's not a low complexity game, but to bring it a little bit lower complexity, a little bit more of a game that can bring others into this level of play, I think that's great. That's one of my biggest positives. I do really like the rondel. I do really like the fight and battle. It's worker placement. I love worker placement. If you've been around, you know I love worker placement. But the fact that it's changing and the fact that we can kind of screw each other over a little bit, it's not take that, but I can move things away if I think I might be able to guess what he's wanting to go to, because you can only move one wheel one time when you move it, and they have to go in the same direction. So if I move it away, a good thing that he could get, I can kind of keep him from that and vice versa. And I think that little bit of tension, it's not a lot, but it's a little bit that makes it fun.
Yep. So my positives, I like a lot of different things. I really thought that Rondell was going to be like the star of the game. I'm kind of finding that placing the statues, but then being able to manipulate your resources so that you can have the secondary action to then get a few more victory points or do something else in this secondary phase over here, I find that to be the most fun.
Yeah.
Right? So, you're doing these things over here, but then you're able to manipulate the board and build and do stuff. And I'm enjoying this more than the gathering the resources, but I need those resources to be able to do the things over here that I want. So it's a fun puzzle. I really like it.
It fits that need you have of do this to turn it into this, to do this to turn it into this, to do that.
And I got miniatures.
Yeah.
I like miniatures.
And they may not be the highest quality, but they look great.
I think they look, but this is perfect for this game.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Completely.
Perfect for this game. They're not, they're not green army men, and they're not at the other end, Simon and Awakened Realms, but they're right where they need to be. Yeah. So, negatives.
I don't have a whole lot of negatives with this. We didn't really play any of the changing first player position. I think that wasn't really a needed thing necessarily so much. I can see where it could come into advantage, but we can manipulate enough that it doesn't have to be. You can kind of get behind very quickly. That would be a negative. And I think, we talk about this with some games. When you get steamrolled over, it's not so fun. And I think I could probably see that happening. I feel like we are well matched when it comes especially to worker placement, that I feel like we can stay consistent. That would be the area that I would say is going to be bad. And that's not to say you can't play and have a good time, but you really do need to see what you're placing and be strategic with where you're placing it, because it's a matter of potentially could be a 10 to 15 point swing if you are placing it in the right place with the right piece and doing your secondary action. And so you have to pay attention to what you're doing up here. And it's kind of a negative.
Yeah. And if you're going to teach this game, you have to help people understand that. Otherwise they'll just be like putting things out and they won't get the multipliers and the chains at the end. I helped Jamon understand that having all the clay at the end, one, it was an objective for the end of the game, which was 13 points, but then it also was going to give him 1 point for every 2. He went from last to second place at the end. Had I not told him that about halfway through the game, he was last the entire game up until the end, and he would have just gotten left behind. Even though I told everybody every turn you need to build a statue. If you're not building statues every turn, you're going to get left behind. So I could see that being a negative. I do think there's a lot of pieces. So separate everything into bags and then just hand out everybody's bag. You get this, you get this, you get this. But other than that, I wish some of the end of round objectives were a little different, a little bit more varied. But other than that, and who goes first, second, or third had no implication on any game I played. 4 players, 2 players, any of it. It just didn't. You can't have everything. But these are nitpicks, right?
Yeah.
So, what's the weight? How hard is this?
Yeah,
because it feels like it's a heavy game. Tight. Maybe
well, it is tight. Yeah. So BGG is rating it as a 3.25, which I do think is right. Yeah. Now, I know I just said a couple minutes ago that a positive is that it's a lot going on and it can be not overly complex and heavy. I think that 3.25 comes into the fact that there are a lot of things going on all at one time, and you do have to think about things, especially if everybody... If you've got strategic and tactical players in your gaming group, you have to think about what you're doing and how you're placing things. Otherwise, you will get left behind. And so I think that rating is appropriate. This is not a 4. This is not a Lacerda game. This is not going to be that high level. You can't bring this to the table. But this has kind of hit that itch that Brad and I play a lot of those heavyweight games, especially like the Lacerda games and things that take a little bit longer and a little bit heavier to play on the weekends. And I feel like this has kind of fit, at least for me, that niche of wanting something complex that I have to focus on. And it's not, at the end of the day, I feel like I've been like brain burned.
Yeah, we can play this in less than 2 hours.
Yeah. And it's fun.
And with 4 people, I can play it in 2 hours. Did we play this 2 hours?
Well,
2.5?
I don't know. I was playing Terraforming Mars.
Yeah, we beat you guys from that. But I taught it, and we played it in less than 3 hours.
Yes.
So that was the first time for 3 of the people I taught how to play it. And we completed this in less than 3 hours. So I would say that was 2.5 hours for 4 people for the first time. That's moving pretty quick.
Yeah.
So, so 3.25, I'd agree. I think it hits that itch where it's heavy enough that it's really thinky. And everybody's thinking, but it's not so heavy that you can't bring it to your game night.
Yeah, that's I think the key. This is accessible. Yeah. Yes, it's a 3.25, but this is accessible, and that's a great thing.
So the value of this now, once again, this is a Gen Con game. Pay full price at Gen Con just so that you can get them about a month or 2 before everybody else. This cost me $70. I thought it was well worth it for $70, but it's even come down. You can get this around $50 to $60 now. I think Game Nerds has it for $48. Somebody else has it for $58. So if this cost, let's say $200, I would say it's a 1 in a value rating. If this cost $25, I would say this is a 5. I like this enough at almost any price. I'm going to be very biased that it's up there. It's over 4. Now, with the caveat, you have to like a heavy game. If you don't like heavy games, just pass this one by. If you like heavy games and you like the theme, and you like rondelles and some miniatures, then this is going to be your $4 to $4.50 value at $50. You're getting a lot of game in this for $50, I think. So that's my rating. I'm going to stick with a 4 because it's heavier. And those aren't necessarily for everybody, but you have miniatures, you have nice products, you have a nice little gimmick.
It works.
Value rating of 4.
Yeah, it works. I think that's a good one. I think that's a good rating.
So for everybody who jumped right to here, Toph is now going to tell us what his rating is.
Yes. So I've thought about this for a while, trying to think how accurate it is. I just had a conversation with his son about this. Takes a lot to make me feel awkward. That was getting close to it.
It doesn't take a lot for me to make you feel awkward.
So my rating, since this is what you want, my rating is an 8. I'm giving it an 8. And that's an 8 out of 10. So that's my BGG rating. So if you go on to BGG, you'll see that I've rated it an 8 there as well.
An 8 on the rubric means what?
You're gonna ask me exactly what that is. Yeah. Oh well, I could look it up to be official. For me, an 8 is a game that I am recommending that I play. So it's not just a game that I am willing to play when somebody says, "Hey, let's play a game. Let's play this." An 8 is one like, "Hey, we want to have game night. What do you want to play? Let's pull out Terracotta Army."
Yep.
It's a good game. And so that's where I'm putting it there. You know, my 9s and 10s are reserved for those games that I always want to play. This is a solid 8 for me.
I'm gonna say it's an 8.5.
Oh, nice. A higher score than mine.
Yeah, I like this game. I am the one who's pushing it on people, like my game group and stuff, and Toph, and like when he came over, I'm like, I want to play this, and we're gonna record it. Give me an excuse to play it. I like this game. I was trying to figure out if I wanted to make it a 9, but like a 9, I want something kind of like these movie experiences.
Okay.
You know, like, or there's just got to be this experience. Like, this is thinking. And I like that experience, but it's not like, you know, War of the Ring or Star Wars Rebellion or Nemesis. You know, those are 9s. That's kind of what I have to get. I have to get that feeling from those. But then I like this game. So 8.5. I'm glad I got it. No regrets.
I wondered if I've wondered where you would put it. I kind of wondered if you put it at a 7. I know you really like it, but I know it's kind of frustrating at times for all of us that are playing it. And it's like, is this something that you want to play a lot? Is this something that you really want to keep playing? And so
I like it. I keep wanting to play it.
Nice.
I do.
Yeah.
So
I like it.
Awesome. So what do you think? Based on what we've told you, is this a yes or a no kind of game for you? Would you be interested in playing it, or would you be interested in picking it up? Or you're like, no, that's not up my alley, Brad. But let us know down below. We really do want to know. We want to know if these things are helpful for you. Does it help you make a decision one way or the other? We're going to try to we did record this. We lost some top-down camera, a little bit of it. We got a new camera. That's going to help.
That's going to help a lot.
But, you know, what do you think? Are these helpful? And do you enjoy watching them as much as we enjoy talking to you about them?
Yeah. If you enjoy the video, give it a thumbs up. If you are not yet subscribed, we would love to have you joining us at the table on a regular basis. So please go ahead and subscribe to the channel. Tell others about us as well. We'd love to be able to talk with more people and get some feedback from more people too. I love the game recommendations that you guys have been making for us. So please continue that trend. So thank you guys so much for joining us.
And remember, no matter if you're playing with solo, with family, or friends,
enjoy whatever games you are bringing.
Have a great night.
Bye. We made it. We made it without the hurricane destroying us. Yet.